The sky was on fire. Flames burned across the ruined city, and smoke covered the stars. Explosions shook the ground, and screams echoed between the broken walls. The war had reached its darkest hour. Armies of machines and soldiers marched through the streets, crushing everything in their path. Among the ruins, a lone human soldier moved quickly. His armor was scratched, his weapon almost out of power, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He had no orders now. His unit was gone, and the command post had fallen. Still, he kept going because he could not leave people behind. His name was not known to the enemy, and maybe not even important to history, but he was there fighting when the city fell. He turned into a side street, stepping over rubble and burned vehicles. Then he froze. There was movement in the shadows, not an enemy, but something small and weak. He lifted his rifle, ready to fire, but what stepped out made him lower it in shock. It was a young woman, covered in dust and blood, her clothes torn, her eyes wide with fear. She looked too clean for a soldier, too fragile for the battlefield. She carried no weapon, no armor, nothing that could help her survive here. Yet she was alive, hiding while the world around her was destroyed. The soldiers stared at her, and she stared back. In that silence, the bombs outside sounded even louder. "You need to move," the soldier said firmly, his voice sharp but not unkind. The woman only nodded. He stepped closer, keeping his eyes on the sky, watching for drones. "Who are you?" he asked, but she did not answer. Instead, she whispered a word he did not understand, a word that sounded old and heavy, almost sacred. Then she stumbled, and he caught her before she hit the ground. The soldier knew he had no time. The city was falling. Enemy troops were sweeping every street. Anyone left alive would soon be dead. Still, something in the woman's eyes made him pause. She was not just another refugee, not just another soul lost in the fire. There was something hidden, something important, though he could not explain why he felt it. He dragged her into a half-broken building. The walls shook as another blast hit nearby. Dust fell from the ceiling, covering them in gray. She coughed, but stayed quiet, her gaze fixed on him like he was her last hope. The soldier checked his weapon, then looked at her again. "You can't stay here," he said. "They will find you." She spoke finally, her voice soft, almost like a secret. "They are hunting me," she said. "They will not stop until I am gone." The soldier frowned. Her words felt strange, too heavy for someone so young. "Why you?" he asked. She shook her head, lowering her eyes. "I cannot tell you." He wanted to press her, but the sound of approaching footsteps outside ended the moment. Enemy patrols, moving closer, scanning every corner. The soldier pulled her close, motioning for silence. The enemies passed, their lights shining through the broken walls, but they did not see him. When the sounds faded, he let out a slow breath. He looked at her again, and the decision was clear in his mind. He was going to save her. He did not know why. He did not know who she really was. But leaving her here would be like leaving hope to die, and he had seen enough death already. "Stay behind me," he ordered, his voice like steel. She nodded again, her hands trembling, but her eyes steady now. They moved together through the ruins. Every street was a graveyard, every building a tomb. The soldier guided her through the shadows, always listening, always watching. Once a drone passed overhead, and they pressed against the wall, hearts pounding. Once a blast hit so close that fire washed across the street, and the heat nearly burned them. Through it all, the woman followed him, silent, watching him with a strange calmness. The soldier began to wonder. Why were the enemy hunting her so fiercely? She had no weapon, no armor, no power. Yet the moment he found her, the attacks grew heavier. It was as if the war itself was chasing her, not the city. And he began to fear that saving her might not be so simple. At last, they reached the edge of the city. The sky glowed red behind them, like the world itself was burning. Ahead lay the wastelands, empty deserts where no one dared to live. The soldier looked at her. "This is where we run," he said. She looked back at the fire, then at him, and for the first time, she smiled. It was a small, broken smile, but it carried a strange strength, almost like she knew something he did not. As they vanished into the night, the soldier thought he had saved just one life. But he had no idea that this choice would change the fate of entire galaxies. No idea that the woman beside him was more than a refugee, more than a survivor. She was destiny itself, waiting to rise. The night was not silent. Even beyond the burning city, the war followed them like a shadow. The ground trembled with distant explosions, and the air smelled of smoke and ash. The soldier led the woman through broken fields, his rifle ready, his steps quick but careful. Every sound felt like a warning. Every flicker of light in the sky made him tighten his grip. Behind them, the city roared like a dying beast. Flames reached toward the stars, and metal towers collapsed one by one. The soldier did not look back often, but when he did, he saw the truth. The city was gone. There would be no home to return to, no survivors waiting for help. Only ashes. And yet beside him walked the one person the enemy still hunted. The woman stumbled often, her body weak from fear and exhaustion. But her eyes never closed. She kept them fixed on the stars above, as if they were calling her, guiding her. The soldier noticed, but he did not ask. He told himself he was only her protector, not her judge. Still, a question burned in his mind. Why were they willing to destroy an entire city for her? A sudden shriek cut the night. The soldier dropped low, pulling her with him into the cover of jagged rocks. Above them, a patrol drone swept across the wasteland, its searchlight cutting through the dark. Its red eye glowed as it scanned the ground, hunting for movement. The soldier pressed his finger to his lips, and the woman froze. The beam passed, so close he felt its heat on his face. But in the end, it moved on, vanishing into the smoke-filled sky. The woman whispered softly, "They will not stop." Her voice carried no fear, only certainty. The soldier stared at her, frowning. "You know why they want you," he said quietly. "Tell me." But she only shook her head, her gaze still locked on the stars. "I cannot. Not yet," she replied, her words almost like a vow. Frustration burned in him, but there was no time for anger. Another explosion echoed in the distance, reminding him that the hunt had not ended. They moved again, faster this time. The soldier's instincts guided them through old trenches and shattered roads. He remembered his training, every escape route, every survival trick. But this was different. He was not escaping for himself. He was carrying someone else's life. And he did not even know her name. The night grew colder, the desert winds sharp against their skin. The woman shivered, and without a word, the soldier pulled off his half-burned cloak and draped it over her. She looked at him surprised. "You will freeze," she said. "I've been through worse," he muttered, looking away. For the first time, a small spark of trust formed between them. A silent understanding. He would protect her, no matter what the cost. Hours passed, and still the flames glowed behind them. But the soldier's eyes were drawn to something else. On the horizon, faint lights blinked in patterns. Not stars, not fire, but signals. Enemy scouts, closing in from the other side. He cursed under his breath. They were being pushed into a trap. He led her down into an old drainage tunnel. The walls were cracked, the floor covered in water and rust. But with shelter, in the darkness, their footsteps echoed. Every sound doubled. The woman finally spoke again, her voice quiet but sharp. "You do not understand what you have done." The soldier glanced at her. "I saved you." "No," she whispered. "You changed everything." Before he could ask what she meant, the tunnel shook. Rubble fell from above, and dust filled the air. The enemy had found the entrance. The soldier gritted his teeth, pulling her deeper into the shadows. He raised his rifle, waiting. The first drone slithered through the crack, its red eye glowing, its weapons ready. The soldier fired, sparks filled the tunnel, and the machine collapsed into the water. But more shadows followed. More were coming. "Run," he told her. Find the exit, don't stop. She hesitated, looking at him. What about you? She asked. He smiled grimly. I'll be right behind you. She wanted to believe him, but something in his voice told her the truth. He was ready to die here if it meant she lived. The chase through the tunnel was chaos. Explosions lit the darkness. Machines clashed with the soldiers' fire. Water splashed, walls cracked, and the ground shook. Through it all, the woman ran, her breath sharp, her steps desperate. But every time she looked back, she saw him still fighting, still standing, a single human against the storm. At last, they burst into the open desert. Cold air hit her face, and stars filled the sky. The woman stumbled, falling to her knees. Behind her, the soldier emerged, bruised, bleeding, but alive. The tunnel collapsed behind him, burying the machines inside. For a moment, there was silence. Only the sound of the wind across the sand. The soldier looked at her, breathing hard. You said they will never stop, he said. Then we don't stop either. The woman met his eyes, and for the first time, she spoke without fear. My destiny is not to hide, she said softly. It is to rise. The soldier did not understand. Not yet. But deep inside, he felt the weight of her words. Something far greater than survival was beginning. The desert was endless. Sand stretched far in every direction, silver under the cold stars. For hours they walked, silent, tired but alive. The flames of the city were gone behind them, but the war was still close. The soldier kept scanning the horizon, waiting for another attack. But the woman's eyes were fixed on the sky, like she was searching for something no one else could see. At last, they reached a canyon filled with twisted metal, broken ships, shattered machines, and skeletons of forgotten wars. The soldier knew this place. It was a graveyard of old battles, where scavengers came to find parts. But tonight it was empty, silent, almost sacred. The woman stopped, touching the rusted hull of an ancient ship. Her fingers traced strange markings burned into the metal. The soldier frowned. You know this wreck? He asked. She nodded slowly. Not this one, she said, but the language. The soldier leaned closer. The symbols meant nothing to him, just scratches on dead steel. But the woman whispered them aloud, her voice steady. The wreck answered. The old metal groaned, and hidden lights flickered weakly. The soldier stepped back in shock. These ships are older than your people, the woman said, her voice calm. They carried secrets across the stars, secrets my enemies do not want me to find. The soldier's hands tightened on his weapon. He was not trained for this. War, he understood. Guns, machines, blood. All simple, all brutal. But this was something far beyond him. Yet he could not walk away, because the more he watched her, the more he felt she was the center of this entire storm. As they moved deeper into the graveyard, the woman grew stronger. Her steps no longer stumbled. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. It was as if the ruins were feeding her, giving her energy. The soldier noticed and felt uneasy. He had saved her, but was he protecting her or following her into something far greater? At the heart of the canyon, they found it, a half-buried ship, larger than all the others. Its hull cracked, its wings shattered, but its core still alive. The woman pressed her hand against the broken door. The metal shifted, and with a heavy groan, it opened. A soft blue light spilled out, bathing the ruins in ghostly glow. Inside, the ship was not dead. Ancient machines hummed softly, maps flickered in the air. The soldier stepped inside, his breath caught. Stars filled the walls, glowing lines forming paths between worlds. It was a star map, older than anything humans had ever seen. The woman walked to the center, her face calm, her hands raised. The map shifted, focusing on a single cluster of glowing worlds. This is where we must go, she whispered. The soldier stared at her. You knew this was here, he said, voice low. She did not deny it. I dreamed of it, she said. For years I saw this place in my sleep, waiting, calling. The soldier shook his head, frustrated. You're leading us into a war we don't understand. She looked at him, her eyes steady. The war already found us, she said. Now we must fight it on our terms. Before he could argue, the ship shook. Alarms blared, red lights flashed. The soldier cursed, running to the door. Through the canyon, enemy lights flickered, drones and troops moving fast. They found us, he growled. The woman stepped to the map, pressing her hand against the console. The ancient ship roared to life, dust falling as engines hummed. The soldier's eyes widened. This thing still flies? She looked at him, her voice certain. It was waiting for me. The ship's core lit brighter, energy surging through broken veins. The ground shook as engines burned for the first time in centuries. Outside, enemy fire rained down, drones swarming like insects. The soldier fired from the doorway, holding them back. "Whatever you're doing," he shouted, "do it faster." The woman whispered words again, the same strange language. The ship responded, screens glowing, controls shifting. The wreck was no wreck. It was alive, and it obeyed her. With a scream of metal, the ship tore free from the sand. Engines blasted, flames roared, and the ground collapsed beneath it. The soldiers stumbled inside as the doors sealed shut. The drones swarmed, but the engines flared. In one violent surge, the ship lifted into the sky. The canyon and ruins disappeared below, and the stars opened wide above them. The soldier fell against the wall, staring in disbelief. He had expected death, but instead they were flying. The woman stood at the center, bathed in light. Her face calm, her eyes filled with fire. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. The soldier looked at her. For the first time, he wondered if he had rescued her, or if she had led him exactly where she wanted to go. The ship tore through the sky. Engines screamed. Metal shook, but climbed higher and higher. The soldier gripped the wall, his breath ragged, his heart racing. He had seen ships. He had flown them in war. But never like this. This ship was not just a machine, it was alive. Every panel pulsed with strange light. Every sound felt like a heartbeat. The woman stood in the center, calm in the chaos. Her hands rested on the glowing console. The lights obeyed her touch, shifting, bending, almost like they were listening to her. The soldier stared. "What are you?" he whispered. For the first time, she looked at him without fear. "I'm what they fear," she said softly, "and what they cannot kill." The words sank heavy in his chest. He wanted answers clear and simple, but the way she spoke only gave more questions. Before he could demand the truth, the ship jolted. Warning lights flashed, and a sharp alarm echoed. Enemy fighters had locked on. Through the windows, he saw them, sleek black ships cutting across the stars, closing fast. The soldier ran to the weapons panel, his fingers searching. But the controls were unlike anything he had ever seen. Symbols he could not read, shapes that shifted when he touched them. "This is useless," he growled. The woman's eyes flicked toward him. "Let me," she said. She placed her hands on the console again, and the ship answered. Weapons unfolded from the broken hull, ancient cannons glowing with energy older than his race. The fighters attacked, beams of light slamming against the shields. The soldier braced for impact, but the ship held strong. Then the woman spoke again, words in that strange language. The ship roared, firing blasts of pure energy. One enemy fighter exploded, then another. The soldier's jaw tightened. She was not a victim. Not anymore. She was something far more dangerous. When the last fighter fell, silence filled the cabin. Only the hum of the ship remained. The soldier turned to her, his face hard. "No more secrets," he said, his voice low but sharp. "If I'm going to die for you, I need to know who you are." For a long moment, she did not speak. She only looked at the stars through the cracked glass. Finally, she stepped closer, her eyes shining in the pale light. "My name is not important," she said, "but my blood is." The soldier frowned, not understanding. She lifted her sleeve, showing a mark burned into her skin. A sigil, glowing faintly, ancient and royal. "This is the crest of the Orion throne," she whispered. "I'm the last heir of a fallen dynasty." The soldier froze. He had heard the stories like all soldiers had. Legends of a galactic empire that once ruled thousands of worlds. Its rulers destroyed in betrayal, hunted, erased from history. But if she was telling the truth, she was the key to everything, and the enemy would never stop until she was gone. "Why didn't you tell me before?" he demanded. Her gaze dropped, her voice quiet. "Because the last people who knew died for it." The soldier's fists tightened. "You should have let me go," he said. "You should have left me behind." She stepped closer, her voice firm now. "No, I need you," she said. "Not because you saved me, but because you are human." The soldier blinked, taken aback. "What does that mean?" he asked. She looked into his eyes, her voice steady. "The galaxy has forgotten your kind. They see humans as soldiers, workers, nothing more. But I see something different. Your people are the one force the empires never counted on. Strong, unpredictable, unbroken." She touched the console again, and the star map returned. One world glowed brighter than the others. "This is where I must go," she said, "to claim what was lost." The soldier stared at the glowing world. He felt the weight of her words pressing on him. This was no longer about survival. This was destiny. But he hated destiny. Destiny killed soldiers. Destiny burned cities. Still, he looked at her and saw something he had not seen before. Not just fear, not just hope, but fire. A fire that could burn worlds or save them. Before he could answer, the ship shook again. The console flickered, warning lights flashing red. The woman's eyes widened. "They are coming," she whispered. The soldier raised his weapon, ready. "Then we fight," he said. But deep down, he knew this fight was different. It was no longer about keeping her alive. It was about keeping her future alive. And that future might belong to the entire galaxy. The ship drifted through the dark sea of stars. Wounds covered its hull, sparks flickered in broken wires, but it kept moving. The soldier sat near the controls, cleaning his rifle, his eyes never leaving the shadows of the ship. He had fought battles, escaped cities, and seen death too many times. But something about this silence felt heavier, like danger was not outside anymore, but inside, waiting. The woman stood at the console, the star map glowing around her. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled. Every line of light on the map pointed toward a single system, a system guarded by fleets, surrounded by enemies. She knew the path, she knew the risk, and yet her eyes held no fear, only determination. The soldier finally broke the silence. "They will not stop hunting us," he said, his voice low. "They've already sent fighters. Next they'll send fleets, assassins, anything." The woman nodded. "They fear what I will become," she replied. "They fear a throne reborn." Before he could answer, the ship's lights dimmed. A sharp alarm echoed through the hall. The soldier jumped to his feet, weapon ready. He expected fighters, missiles, another ambush from the outside. But the threat came from within. The door at the far end of the chamber hissed open. A figure stepped out, tall, armored in black, blades glowing faintly in each hand. The soldier's eyes widened. An assassin. The woman gasped, stepping back. The assassin moved without sound, his steps like shadows, his face hidden behind a mask. The soldier fired, blasts of light cutting across the hall. But the assassin moved faster than any soldier he had ever seen. One blast hit, sparks showered, but the figure kept coming. The soldier barely blocked the first strike, the assassin's blade clashing against his rifle. The force knocked him back, his arms shaking from the impact. The woman shouted words in her ancient tongue. The ship's walls glowed, but the assassin raised a hand. Somehow, he cut through her power, like he had been built to resist it. She froze, shocked. The assassin was not just a soldier. He was a weapon made to kill her kind. The soldier gritted his teeth, pushing back. "You're after her," he growled. The assassin said nothing, only pressed harder. The soldier's rifle broke under the weight, sparks flying. He rolled aside just before the blade struck the floor. With one swift move, he grabbed a shard of metal from the ground. It wasn't much, but it was sharp, and sharp was enough. The fight turned brutal, close, every strike a gamble. The assassin faster, stronger, trained for this exact moment. But the soldier refused to fall. Every scar, every battle, every loss had shaped him for survival. He fought not with skill alone, but with stubborn fire. And slowly he pushed the assassin back. Meanwhile, the woman closed her eyes. Her lips moved, whispering the old words again. The ship answered, its lights pulsing, its engines roaring. The assassin staggered for a moment, distracted. The soldier seized the chance, driving the shard of metal into the assassin's side. The figure let out a muffled cry, falling to one knee. The soldier struck again, until the masked face crashed against the floor, motionless. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. The soldier stood over the body, panting, his hands shaking. He looked at the woman, his eyes burning. "They sent him for you," he said. "They'll send more." The woman walked closer, her face pale. "This is only the first," she whispered. Her gaze locked on the mask. "They will send hunters, killers, whole armies, until I am gone." The soldier grabbed the mask and threw it aside. His voice was cold. "Then we fight them all." But deep inside, doubt gnawed at him. How long could they keep running? How many assassins could he face before one finally killed her, or killed him? The woman touched his shoulder. Her voice was steady. "You are not just protecting me," she said. "You are standing at the beginning of something greater." The soldier frowned. "I didn't choose this," he said. She smiled faintly, her eyes glowing with quiet fire. "No one chooses destiny," she whispered. "It chooses us." The star map flickered, the glowing world pulsing brighter. The soldier stared at it, his chest tight. He hated the word destiny, but he knew one truth now. Every step they took brought them closer to the heart of the storm. And the galaxy was already watching, already moving. The rising threat was no longer shadows. It was war, and war was coming for them both. The ship crossed the silent void, but silence never meant safety. Every star they passed carried whispers of war. Worlds burned, fleets hunted, and everywhere the same question spread. Could the lost heir truly be alive? The soldier stood at the viewing deck, his eyes fixed on the endless stars. He had seen wars end, empires fall, but this felt different. This was not survival anymore. It was preparation. The galaxy was shifting, and the center of that storm stood only a few feet away. The woman approached quietly, her steps steady, her gaze sharper than before. She no longer looked like a refugee. The dirt and fear had faded, replaced by fire and purpose. Still, she carried doubt in her silence, and he could see it. "You're not ready," the soldier said flatly. She raised her chin. "Then make me ready." That night became training, not in royal halls or golden palaces, but in the cold belly of a half-broken ship. The soldier showed her how to hold a blade, how to aim a weapon, how to move when enemies closed in, how to breathe when death was near. She learned quickly, her hands trembling at first, but her eyes never wavering. "Again," she said each time she stumbled, again. Days blurred into nights. The soldier pushed her hard, testing her will. Every bruise, every fall was answered with her rising again. He had trained soldiers before, but none like her. She carried something heavier than armor, heavier than weapons. She carried the weight of countless worlds. Their journey led them to broken colonies, worlds scarred by the same empire that hunted her. Refugees gathered at every port, faces filled with fear and hunger. But when they saw her, something changed. A whisper spread through the crowds. "The heir lives. The throne is not gone." Hope sparked in eyes that had been empty for years. At first, she did not know how to speak to them. Her words felt too small for their pain. But the soldier watched as she tried, and slowly she grew. She told them not of crowns or destiny, but of survival, of standing together, of refusing to bow. And the people listened. Because she did not speak like a queen, she spoke like one of them. The soldier saw it clearly. She was learning to lead, not by blood, not by power, but by earning trust. and it made the enemy fear her even more. One night, as the stars glowed cold above, an allied captain arrived. His fleet battered, his people broken. He knelt before her. "We will follow," he said, his voice rough with loss. Others followed, scavengers, rebels, deserters. One by one, they bent their heads, and a force began to grow around her. Not an army yet, but the seed of one. The soldiers stood apart, watching. He had never bent knee to anyone, never sworn to crowns or thrones, and she never asked him to. Instead, she walked to him, her eyes steady. "You are not my soldier," she said softly. "You are my shield." He did not answer, but deep inside, he knew it was true, and he hated how much it mattered. War came sooner than expected. The Empire sent fleets, massive and merciless. Their shadows covered the stars, their weapons glowing like suns. The woman's new allies trembled. Some wanted to flee, others to surrender. She stood before them, her voice strong. "If you run, they will hunt you forever," she said. "If you kneel, they will kill your children." Her eyes burned. "But if you fight, you give the galaxy a future." The soldier watched her. She was no longer the frightened girl he had found in the ruins. She was becoming the leader she was born to be, and when the fleets clashed, he fought at her side. Ships burning, soldiers dying, screams echoing across the stars. Through it all, she stood, guiding, commanding, rising. It was not victory, not yet, but it was not defeat either. For the first time in years, the galaxy had something stronger than fear. It had hope, and hope could burn brighter than any empire. When the battle ended, broken ships floated in silence. The soldier sat against the wall, his armor scorched, his hands bleeding. The woman walked to him, her face pale, but her eyes alive. "You doubted me," she said quietly. He looked at her, breathing hard. "I still do," he admitted, but for the first time he smiled. "Doubt makes you stronger." She smiled back, weary but proud. And for a moment, in the ruins of war, they both understood. This was not just her fight anymore. It was theirs, and the future of the galaxy was now written in their scars. The galaxy held its breath. For months, whispers had spread from world to world. The heir lives, the throne will rise. And now, every fleet, every army, every frightened soul turned their eyes to one battle. The final war for the future. The Empire arrived first. Their fleets blackened the stars, endless lines of warships stretching from horizon to horizon. Their voices thundered across every channel. "Surrender the pretender, and the rest of you may live." But no one answered. Instead, hidden ships, broken armies, and rebels who had lived too long in shadows gathered in silence. Their hope fragile, their weapons weak, but their eyes steady. At the center of it all, she stood, no longer a refugee, no longer just an heir. She stood tall on the command deck of her ancient ship. Her armor simple, her crest glowing faintly on her arm. Her voice calm, but filled with fire. "We are not fighting for crowns," she said. "We are fighting for tomorrow." The soldier stood beside her, silent as always. His rifle ready, his scars heavy. He had fought wars for orders, for flags, for survival. But this time was different. This time, he fought for her, not for the throne she carried, but for the fire in her eyes. The first shots tore through the void. The battle began. Fleets collided, weapons flashing, ships exploding into burning fragments. The Empire fought with precision, cold and merciless. The rebels fought with desperation, messy but unbroken. And in the chaos, hope burned brighter than fear. The woman's ship moved like it was alive. Ancient cannons roared, shields flared. Every time she spoke the old words, the ship answered with thunder. Enemies fell, allies rallied. Her presence was more than command. It was a beacon. Even those who had never seen her before felt it. They fought harder because she was there, but destiny always demanded blood. The Empire unleashed its greatest weapon, a colossal dreadnought, larger than cities, armed with enough fire to burn worlds. It cut through the battlefield like a blade. Rebel ships shattered in its path. And soon, all guns turned toward the woman's vessel. The soldier felt the weight of it. This was where fate wanted to end. He checked his weapon, his voice steady at last. "I'll hold them off," he said. She turned to him sharply. "You will die." He gave a faint smile, tired but fierce. "I was already dead the day the city fell." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then she reached out, placing her hand on his. "You are not my soldier," she whispered. "You are my friend." The words cut deeper than any blade. He nodded once, then stepped into the fire. The battle raged. The soldier led boarding parties, tearing through enemy lines with nothing but grit and rage. He became a storm, a shadow of war. Every strike bought her more time. Every scar written across his armor carved her future deeper into stone. On the command deck, she faced the dreadnought. Her ship was burning, her allies falling. But she did not falter. She spoke the old words one last time, and the ship answered with everything it had. Engines flared, cannons screamed. A single massive strike tore through the dreadnought's core. The Empire's great weapon cracked apart, fire consuming it from within. The battlefield froze. For a breath, no one moved. Then the rebels roared. The Empire's fleets broke, retreating into the shadows. The war was not finished, but the tide had turned. The galaxy had seen the air rise, and no fear could bury that truth again. When the silence returned, she searched for him. The soldier stood at the edge of the deck, his armor shattered, his body heavy with wounds. But he lived. He looked at her, his voice rough. "You're not the girl I rescued anymore," he said. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "No," she whispered, "I am the galaxy you gave me." The stars burned bright around them. The throne was no longer a secret, no longer a dream. It was a promise. She would rule, not as a tyrant, not as a shadow of the past, but as the voice of countless broken worlds rising together. And the soldier? He stood in silence, watching. He wanted no crown, no glory, no name etched in history. But in his heart he knew the truth. He had rescued her from war, never knowing she would rule a galaxy. And in doing so, he had changed destiny itself.